Okay guys, 11th September 2011, I deployed to Helmand Province, Afghanistan, and there was moments throughout my operational tour in which I found myself praying. I was never too sure what I was praying to or who I was praying to, and it's something I definitely still grapple with today. So these moments came when we was in contact and also when we was out of contact, and it specifically started on a day which I spoke about recently in one of my recent episodes when we was in Loy-Mandar-Calais on a search operation. Now if you listen back to that episode, you'll know that one of the Scottish lads had just been blown up, stood on an IED, becoming a double amputee, and the MERT was inbound, and the Taliban had gone over the ICOM tracker saying that they was going to shoot down the MERT. Now my section at the time, we wasn't in direct contact, we was actually just off to a flank and we was in an irrigation ditch. So that allowed me to have this moment to step back, and that was when I found myself first actually praying and asking for all of my guys to have a safe return. But it was in that moment that I kind of questioned, who am I praying to, or what is it that I'm praying to? And then I also found it happening again. So Jay got blown up on the 31st of January 2012. It didn't happen on the day. I think my mind probably had too much to deal with on the daytime, but definitely in the days following and the evenings following, I found myself sat on the helipad, kind of just looking up at the stars and asking for a safe return again from whatever that bigger power is, or whatever it was that I was asking for. And looking back, I was only 20 years old, so I was never meant to know. Some people never even have these kind of questions, let alone have the answers to them. So yeah, but on the 20th of November 2011, Tom Lake was killed in action. He got blown up by an IED, and Tom was from B Company. Now, if you remember, if you watch my other videos, you'll know that I came from B Company before I got promoted to Lance Track, which meant that most of my best mates were in B Company. And I was going back on my R&R on the 22nd of November. So when I went back to Camp Bastion to go back on my R&R, I actually got to see the B Company lads who were there to see Tom off. He was getting repatriated back to the UK. So yeah, a lot of my good friends were actually in Bastion at the time, and I got to cross paths with them. So I went over to see him in the evening, and I went for a walk with one of my closest mates that I met whilst I was in the army. He was only a couple of years older than me. So yeah, we went for a walk. We ended up going out, sat on the curb, just having a chat, and he was telling me about the Kazivac. He told me about what happened, the situation, his experiences in it, and he looked at me and he said, "I don't want to die, mate." And I still don't know how to understand that conversation. I don't think, maybe it's not meant to be understood, maybe it's just meant to be had, but it's just, it was a heavy conversation for two young lads to be having, probably heavier than two young lads should be having. But the next morning I was going back on R&R, and that night I just didn't sleep. So there's a small parade square in Camp Bastion, and it's where they do the parades when the repatriations are done. And just next to that square there's a small church. So I kind of sat in that area for the whole night, just looking up at the stars, and kind of just like questioning life, kind of just like wondering, what is everything, why are we there, what's the purpose of not only being in Afghan, but just the purpose of everything really. Trying to understand loss, not only the loss of Tom, but the loss of Will, how to deal with loss, not only how to deal with loss throughout life, but also for the rest of the tour, because we still had 5 months left of tour. As much as I was going back home the next day, that was like the last thing on my mind. I was coming back to Afghanistan, and I knew that I was going to be back out on the ground, and I knew that I still had over 5 months left, 5 months left of it. So yeah, 14 days, I went back on R&R, my physical self went back on R&R, and then 14 days later I come back. And when you come back from R&R, I went from sitting on a sofa, sat in front of the TV, to then 24 hours later being with the Gurkhas, and I was sprinting through the shooting gallery, and then Murder Wall was my TV for the next month or so, So yeah, it's a hell of a change. But when we was in Bahada, we got sent down some SOS packages, and what I mean by them, so when we're in Afghanistan, we can get sent out shoe parcels. Now, anyone across the whole world can send these. It's just basically a shoe box, and it's full of like sweets, treats, or anything you want to put in it, and it's just addressed to a soldier. So yeah, they get sent out to Afghanistan, get sent to Camp Bastion, and then Bastion distributes them out, and 7 parcels got brought down to Bahada. So I picked one up, completely random, and it ends up being from a couple called Tess and Neville. And I don't know how it worked, but Tess and Neville actually lived on the road behind me in Bournemouth in the UK, in Charminster. And this box had found its way from them out to me, and it could have gone to any soldier in all of Helmand Province. Now, inside the box, as much as they put like sweets and treats in it, they'd also put in a small Bible. And in that Bible, they had highlighted Matthew 6:34. And Matthew 6:34 is, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And they wrote me a letter, just explaining, whilst you're out there, just try to take it day by day, try not to think months ahead, which goes instantly back to the thought that I had just before I went back on R&R, which was, I've still got 5 months left. So it came at a really, really good time, and it was just a lovely thing to receive, which was take it by day, and that really is the attitude when I was out there. And when I go back to it now, when I think about church now, when I think about anything to do with that now, I go into church now and I struggle just for 2 reasons, really. First reason being is, I don't know what it is, but there's just this feeling that kind of just like grabs hold of me, and I can't describe it, but it just feels like a big frog in my throat, and I feel like I spend the whole of the time at church doing breathing exercises to try and stop myself from welling up or crying, and I'm still not too sure what that is. But the main reason, I think, is because after being in those moments, and when, I was praying to such a higher power, and I had that feeling of something that is so much bigger than us, I struggle to know how to frame it. And when I mean that is, how do I take such a something that's indescribable, such a higher power than anything we can describe, and put that into a human being in Jesus Christ? Is something that I struggle to do. I'm not sure how to do it. I think it's something that you definitely need guidance on. But yeah, it's just something that I struggle with. But when I was in America, so I went to the States in 2021, and I spent a lot of time with a man who served 22 years in law enforcement, and he was a strong Christian. And he took me to church quite a few times whilst I was out there. And when I was out there, we'd done a sermon on Psalm 143. I'm going to read it in a minute, but when I first heard it, this was probably like the most difficult church that I've attended, just simply because I was struggling so much with relating to it. And when I was listening to it, I was just thinking about those moments when I was in that ditch in Calais, and I was first ever started questioning what this higher power was. And then I think about the moment when I was just that young boy sat outside the church in Afghan, and all the moments there's when I left the army, and we saw suicidal ideation moments when you're asking for guidance and you're not too sure what to do. And then also what really gets me in it is the use of the word enemy, and how if I had heard this when I was in Afghanistan, and if I read this out that night, then the enemy would be in what I was referring to as the Taliban. But then it kind of becomes more so like whatever demons it is that you're struggling with, as opposed to the Taliban, like a physical person. It becomes like more so like your own struggles and your own dealings that you're trying to deal with in your own mind, as opposed to an actual enemy itself. So I'll give it a read, and then after we're going to do a minute silence for Tom. And if you didn't know Tom, you don't have to do minute silence, but if you are a veteran and you feel any kind of like a difference in your body because maybe you went through similar moments, and I understand if you did go through similar moments, then they are quite hard moments to grasp, then just spend that minute just boxing it up and putting away any of those feelings, so you're not walking away from this video feeling anything that we spoke about or you thought about. So I'll read Psalm 143, we'll go straight into the minute silence after, and then yeah, that's it. Okay, so Psalm 143. Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy. In your faithfulness and righteousness, come to my relief. Do not bring your servant into judgment, for no one living is righteous before you. The enemy pursues me, he crushes me to the ground. He makes me dwell in the darkness like those long dead. My spirit grows faint within me, my heart within me is dismayed. I remember the days of long ago. I meditate on all your works and consider what your hands have done. I spread out my hands to you. I thirst for you like a parched land. Answer me quickly, Lord, my spirit fails. Do not hide your face from me, or I will be like those who go down to the pit. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. Rescue me from my enemies, Lord, for I hide myself in you. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your good spirit lead me on level ground. For your name's sake, Lord, preserve my life. In your righteousness, bring me out of trouble. In your unfailing love, silence my enemies, destroy all my foes, for I am your servant. Okay, guys, I'm going into a minute silence. Okay, guys, have a good week. Thank you very much.